it's Reija and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to give you some spoopy Halloween manga recommendations, and some of these are more horror than others, so I'm just going to start with the tamest one and work my way up to the horrifying gory ones. So without further ado, let's get started. The first manga I want to recommend is Blue Exorcist by Kazue Kato, and this is an ongoing series. It currently spans 19 volumes and it is translated and published by Viz Media. And it is a really fun, action-y type kind of battle series. And you may be wondering, well, why is it on my Halloween recommendations? Well, the main premise is that this story revolves around these twins who are the sons of Satan. And one of the twins has inherited the power of Satan, and they become exorcists to combat Satan and his minions and all the demons of the demon realm. And this series is heavily inspired by Christian, especially Catholic Christian tradition, and also Shinto and Buddhist spiritual traditions. So all the demons and spirits are inspired by those traditions, and it is really fun. The art style is amazing, and there are a lot of interesting and fun characters. So if you're not into horror but really want to explore a kind of demony, semi-scary and spoopy world, then this is definitely a manga series that would work for you. Next manga series I want to recommend is The 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. It spans 22 volumes and it has finished its run, so you can basically binge it all the way through. And many people I see on BookTube who recommend manga talk about Urasawa's Monster, which is another masterpiece by him. But I wanted to recommend The 20th Century Boys because I don't hear a lot of people talking about it that often. And it is also kind of creepy. It is science fiction, and it takes place in multiple different timelines. There is this friend group, and we see them growing up in the 60s and 70s in Japan, and they have this clique, and with the clique they have this symbol that they used when they were children. And in the present timeline, we see that there is this cult forming around this mysterious unknown person, and they use the same symbol that this friend group used when they were children. And mysterious things start happening, people start turning up dead, and there is this one main character who was part of this friend group that takes care of her sister's child, whom his sister left to his care. And this child also has some supernatural abilities. And it is just an amazing series. It is very mysterious and kind of creepy, but also very kind of mundane and is rooted in the everyday struggles of these people. And I would thoroughly recommend this series to anyone who kind of wants a small dose of creepy with their science fiction. Next up, I want to recommend Parasite by Hitoshi Iwaki. This manga series was published in the early 90s. It spans 8 volumes and it has finished its run. There is also an anime adaptation that came out a couple of years ago, which is also very good. And the story is about these parasites that come raining down during a meteor shower, and they inhabit people's brains. They burrow into human flesh and take over the human brain, and then try to pass themselves as human and also consume human flesh. And the main character of this story is Shinichi, who happens to become a carrier for a parasite. But the parasite fails to take over his brain and instead ends up maturing in Shinichi's right arm. So they become reluctant partners and have to work together because the parasites that have taken over human brains consider them a threat. And it is very gruesome. There's a lot of violence and gore in it, but it's also semi-humorous at times. And Hitoshi Iwaki really likes to explore themes of overpopulation and humanity and humans as animals and what makes humans better or worse than the rest of the animal kingdom and stuff like that. It is very intense and very interesting. So I definitely recommend this series, even though it's on the older side. Next series I want to recommend is The Petshop of Horrors by Matsuri Akino. It has spanned 10 volumes and has finished its run. There's also a sequel series, but I haven't read that one, so I can't recommend it. And this manga series takes place in Los Angeles, in Chinatown, where a mysterious figure known only as Count D runs a pet shop that deals in exotic animals. And each chapter of the manga explores a different pet that is sold to a person. And all these pets come with contracts that state that the owner mustn't show the pet to anyone, and they also have 2 other clauses in the contract. And usually what happens in the chapter is that the owner ends up breaking the contract in some way, and all hell breaks loose. And the manga follows a kind of monster of the week type formula, where most of the cast is rotating and there's only a few recurring characters. And there's Count D, and there's also a police officer called Leon Orcott, who is suspicious of Count D and suspects him of drug trafficking. And this is a very good series. It is drawn in this very whimsical, kind of smooth and flowy way, which I really enjoy, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. It is a bit tough to get a hold of these nowadays because the company that published these, Tokyopop, ended up going bankrupt, but I suspect that you could get a hold of them in the second-hand market and also from the library. And finally, I want to recommend Gyo by Junji Ito. Now, this title is definitely the most gruesome and gory of all the titles I wanted to recommend on this video, and it is heavy on the body horror. So take that into consideration before you pick it up. This story is really out there, it is very absurd. It's basically about this couple who go on a holiday, and when they are on their holiday, they come across this fish that swarm the holiday resort using mechanical legs. And they don't know what propels these fish and what makes them move on land, other than that they have the mechanical legs. And later they find out that there is this germ that infects animals and people and makes their tissues start emitting copious amounts of gas. Yeah. And when that happens, these mechanical legs use that gas as a propellant. And then they start moving around and start spreading the disease. It is very out there and very absurd in its conventions, but there is also a lot of nods to traditional horror. You have Kari, who is the heroine, who is your traditional screamer queen. You have Tadashi, who is the bright-eyed hero. And you have your crazy scientist. So there's a lot of traditional horror tropes wrapped into this very surreal and absurd setting. And it is very, very gruesome. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this is scary because it is so out there, but it is definitely gross and disgusting, but I would still say that it is worth a read. This particular collection also comes with a few short stories, such as The Enigma of Amigara Fault, which is another very creepy and very surreal horror story. So if you're in any way into very weird horror and are not squeamish, I would definitely recommend Gyo by Junji Ito. And there you have it. These were all my manga recommendations for Halloween. And if you have any manga titles that you would want to recommend for Halloween, please leave them in the comments. I would definitely be interested in checking all of them out myself. And I will see you in the next video. Happy Halloween! Bye bye!